Maxwell was among Epstein's closest associates and helped him exploit girls who were as young as 14 years old. Maxwell played a critical role in helping Epstein to identify, befriend, and groom minor victims for abuse. In some cases, Maxwell participated in the abuse herself.
That's the federal prosecutor going after Ghislaine Maxwell in New York City. Well, that's the criminal case that she has. There is a civil case as well, and there was some interesting news on that front today involving the unsealing or potential unsealing of some documents that could reveal some big names of rich, powerful people who may be involved with Jeffrey Epstein. Let's bring in Court TV special contributor Ashley Banfield. Ashley, great to see you. You know, every time I start talking about this story, I know how complicated it is on some levels and how many theories there are out there on other levels of everything that has happened. So sometimes it's difficult to figure out what's real, what's not real, but what's happening inside courtrooms, we can verify is for real.
Yes, and you kind of have to follow the bouncing ball a little bit because there are a lot of lawsuits flying around when it comes to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, not to mention the criminal side of the equation, which we've also been covering. But let's just start with what you mentioned just there, and that is that a judge today decided that it's time to rip open the envelope on a whole bunch of secret evidence and documents in a civil matter that was actually settled 3 years ago. And that civil matter was between Ghislaine Maxwell and Virginia Roberts Giuffre. Now, Virginia is in England, right? And she's the person who alleged that Prince Andrew was involved in all of this, that Jeffrey Epstein had pushed her into having sex with Prince Andrew. So that's that connection. Well, to all of that, back in 2015, Ghislaine Maxwell had a publicist put out a statement saying that, and what were the exact words? Those are obvious lies. That's my attempt at the accent. I'm pretty sure it's off. But nonetheless, the words were there. Ghislaine Maxwell's publicist said that of Virginia Roberts Giuffre, what she said were obvious lies, and Virginia sued her. Well, that suit was settled in 2017, and the documents were sealed. Fast forward to today, Vinny. And that's where the judge has said it's time to unseal them. Boom, unsealed. Well, you would think it's the lead story today. Oh my God, who are the names? Who are all these famous, rich, and powerful people who are going to be in those documents? Not so fast, because the judge actually said, I take it back for a week. I know I've said I'm going to unseal those documents, but I'm taking it back for a week to give an opportunity for appeal. So you got to wait another week before you can hear any of those salacious details, if the appeal's not successful anyway. But you asked what the names were. I don't know, but I have an idea of the people who've been thrown around in so many of the accusations up until now. So, wow, this is a real who's who list. It would be like one of those premiere lists, you know, for a fancy party in New York City. But it's Prince Andrew, of course, Senator George Mitchell, United States Ambassador Bill Richardson, famed attorney Alan Dershowitz, President Clinton, and President Trump. These are some of the names that have been discussed in connection with accusations regarding Jeffrey Epstein. I'm not saying that they're guilty. I'm not saying that they're innocent. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that these are the names that some expect to be in those documents. To the President Trump part, we don't typically get into politics, right, on Court TV. We just talk about the law, just the law. But they went there at the White House on Tuesday. The press corps went there when President Trump was holding his news conference, mostly on coronavirus, but it went everywhere. And they asked him about Ghislaine Maxwell. I mean, this is someone he's been photographed with many times and partied with, and she's been at Mar-a-Lago with Jeffrey and Melania and Donald Trump. And I think everybody was expecting him to say, you know what, let the law carry out its process, and I don't want to get involved. But no. Instead, the president did something that left everybody's jaws on the floor. He wished her well. And if you don't believe me, here you go. Have a listen.
I don't know. I haven't really been following it too much. I just wish her well, frankly. I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, and I guess they lived in Palm Beach. But I wish her well, whatever it is. I don't know the situation with Prince Andrew. Just don't know. Not aware of it.
That was troublesome. And I think a lot of people have acknowledged that even inside the White House, that was troublesome. An accused pedophile, an accused, listen, she's been accused of pedophilia by the Southern District of New York. Even though they didn't put it in charges, they articulated that in a news conference, that she sometimes took part in the sexual abuse of young girls, children. So it's weird to hear a president wish someone well. But that happened. Okay, so let me go back a little bit because I mentioned Alan Dershowitz. He's on the list as well. Alan Dershowitz's name has been bandied about a lot in the Jeffrey Epstein saga. He's been accused of also taking part in some of these criminal activities. He has vociferously protested that. And there's been a flurry, a Christmas time flurry of lawsuits that have gone back and forth regarding Jeffrey Epstein. At one point, Alan Dershowitz called Virginia Roberts in England, the person who said that she had been trafficked out to Prince Andrew. At one point, she had also accused Alan Dershowitz of being part of this ring and that she had been sexually abused by Alan Dershowitz. And Alan Dershowitz's response to that was to call her a certified complete total liar. And she and her lawyer sued him for defamation, saying, "You lied about me. You called me a liar. I'm not a liar, and I'm going to sue you." And then he sued her back. And the countersuit said that this was serious harm to his reputation, business, and health. And then for good measure, there was a lot of back and forth between the lawyers. And there's a reason I'm telling you all this. Follow the bouncing ball, like I said. David Boies, who had represented her at one point and represents a lot of the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, he sued Alan Dershowitz. He himself sued Alan Dershowitz. And I want to read to you what he said in this 2019 defamation case. He said, in an effort to distract attention from Alan Dershowitz's own misconduct, defendant has engaged in a campaign to attack and vilify each of the lawyers who've represented his victims, one of which is plaintiff. And then the New York Post reported in 2019 of the lawsuit, again, the lawsuit by David Boies against Alan Dershowitz, that that document, that lawsuit, lists the number of times Dershowitz has accused David Boies of extortion of boys, telling clients to, quote, intentionally lie about sex with him, with Dershowitz. If this is getting complicated, I apologize. But essentially, there is a lot of animus between the attorneys in these cases. And it boiled over today in an op-ed or an article, however you want to term it, that Alan Dershowitz wrote in Newsmax. And it went after, it went after one of the victims, Maria Farmer. She's the first person who came forward to the FBI 26 years ago to report Jeffrey Epstein. She's also says she's been a victim of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. There she is on the left, back in the day, with her little sister, who is victim number 2 in the indictment against Ghislaine Maxwell when she was 15 years old. Annie Farmer, who's now a doctor, was allegedly assaulted by Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, why is this important? Because Alan Dershowitz has gone after Maria Farmer while she's in a hospital room. I spoke with her this morning. She's just come out of an intense chemotherapy session. She has a brain tumor. She's lost all of her hair. She's being treated for cancer. She's going forward with some extraordinarily aggressive therapy. She's hospitalized for several weeks. And in her hospital bed, she read this article that accused her of being an anti-Semite, being anti-Jewish. And what she said was that he has cobbled together a number of different things that she has said to make it look like she's anti-Jewish in the quotes that they laid out in Dershowitz's piece. And she said to me, I am absolutely heartsick about this because I'm married to a Jewish man and my best friend is Jewish. I am not an anti-Semite. And she said, what I really think this is that he's going after David Boies, again, my lawyer, because they're going at it over defamation. And she said, I think I'm the victim here that he's trying to tear apart. By the way, in that piece that Dershowitz dropped in Newsmax, he also went after David Boies. And for all of those folks who are over the age of, let's say 45, David Boies is also famous because he represented famously Al Gore in Bush v. Gore 2000. But he has represented a lot of these victims. Boy, have I ever gone on a long time. You want to get a word in edgewise? You let me go, and it'll be an hour-long special.
It's a complicated story, but you laid it out very well. Alan Dershowitz, I spoke with Alan Dershowitz a while ago about this, because not only did he file those lawsuits against boys and against Virginia Giuffre, he also wrote a whole book about it and laying out his case. And I spoke to him about these allegations, and here's his side of the story.
I don't want to see anybody ever convicted in court or in the court of public opinion without evidence. Guilt by accusation is a terrible phenomenon that's going on in our society. She tells her best friend, I have this on tape, she tells her best friend, I was pressured into naming Dershowitz by my lawyers. Believe me, we're going to be questioning the lawyers about the pressure they put on her to falsely accuse me. So the public will learn a lot from this trial, and I think it will be very educational, and it will vindicate me. I've already been vindicated completely by an FBI investigation. I wrote an op-ed for the Wall Street Journal urging the FBI to investigate me. Have you ever heard a guilty person urge the FBI to investigate him? I said, open up a criminal investigation of me and of the woman, and send FBI agents to our trial, because one of us will be committing perjury. I will swear under oath I never met her. She will swear under oath she had sex with me 7 times in exotic locations where I never was during the relevant period of time. And the court and the government simply can't tolerate perjury like that being committed in a courtroom. Somebody has to be prosecuted. And of course, the person who should be prosecuted is the person who committed perjury. Not me, Virginia Giuffre.
And most civil cases get settled. And Alan Dershowitz told me, no, I want a public trial of this, no settlement. I want the world to see this. So that's his attitude going into all this. So we'll see how it all plays out. But it gets more and more complicated. But next week, we may learn a whole lot more.
Well, there you go, Vinny. It's next week. If the documents all come out, that could be evidence. I am fascinated, though, by the irony of Alan Dershowitz saying guilt by accusation, but he made those accusations against one of the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, in a news article. So there's a lot of back and forth on both parts, but I want those documents. I don't know about you. It's not just the salacious stuff. It's just to get to the bottom of so much of this mystery and so many of these conspiracy
Get to the truth.
theories.
Yeah, because billionaires are not supposed to get a different set of justice. It's the same for everybody.